Welcome back, everyone, to the Student Media Podcast. I don't even know what episode we're on at this point. The days are blending together as we're getting towards the end of this quarter and the end of my CWU career. It's been, you know what, whatever. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
I'm with Deacon Tuttle, as always. He's my co-host. Guy's a dog Tuttle. And we are joined by Johannes, or as he told me before the show, call him Yo Goodell. So Yo, it is nice to meet you, as I said before, and very happy to have you on the show, man. This is awesome. Seems like you do a lot of really cool work with your photography and what you do with student media. So Deacon's like, hey, let's get this guy on because he said he's willing to come on and he wants to talk to us. And it's like, anyone who wants to talk to us probably doesn't know what we do and that we're two idiots behind the microphone, but all right, well,
we're gonna get enlightened to our stupidity in a way. So that's an oxymoron.
Exactly.
Oh, fantastic. Can't wait, you guys, really.
So, like, you know, what has Deacon told you about us, just from like a outside perspective about what we do here? You know, just as we sit here, I want to interview you about your initial thoughts of this little show that we run. That's so dumb.
You guys are like two knuckleheads. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
You guys are like two great homies, you know, that they do amazing things. I kind of follow you guys at work too sometimes. Like I just like browse social media and I find you guys have like really good synergies, if you will, just together. Sorry, you know, just two guys just like talking out and a great vibe in general. I don't know too much about it, honestly, but I'm really open book in general. So just feel free to ask me anything, and hopefully I'll be able to get to know you guys a little bit too by the end of this recording.
Yeah. So Deacon, this is how we're going to start every show now. We're going to just ask our guests what they think about us.
I like that idea.
Really boost our egos.
Yo was one of the first people that I actually know that's seen the show in the flesh. So I'm like, wow, okay, we found one of our viewers. We found someone. So let's bring him on.
Fantastic. Appreciate it.
Yes, yo. So what's your background in photography, and how did you first get connected to the Observer?
Well, it's a long story. I'll basically tell you this much. I grew up in a family where my father did photography a lot of the time. He was also a journalist too. He graduated from the University of Missouri, which is a journalism school. And after that, you know, I literally grew up behind the lens, if you will. So I was really into photography growing up too. And he taught me a lot, you know, thanks to my father. And then for the Observer, basically, I literally walked through the door into their life, basically, because I was literally in class, my film class. I got out of class, walking by, and I see the Observer door open, and I just walk inside. And as I showed Evan, I'm like a freelancer on the side, basically letting the Observer know, like, hey, if you guys need any photos, feel free to reach out. And basically in the end, they told me that they had an opening actually available coming up in the spring quarter. And I'm like, bet, sure, let me just work, you know what I mean? So I'm here now, and I'm happy to do good things for the Observer and for the community of Ellensburg and Central Washington University, and looking forward to working with you, Deacon, more closely next school year.
Of course. Hey, well, so check this out. Check this connection, deep dive, because I see a Pulp Fiction poster in the background. It seems like you had some divine intervention going on, because now you got this role for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Pulp Fiction, I mean, people say it's a very cliched poster, and honestly, I love it. I love Uma Thurman. Okay, good. Okay,
I had it my freshman year in my dorm. I was like, this is great. I don't care if it's cliche. It's one of the most iconic posters for a reason, right?
I don't know what's more cliche, a Pulp Fiction poster, or some sports stooge with a bunch of jerseys on the wall. I just don't have any more closet space. I'm a fan of Seahawks. But yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say something about that poster too. That is a sweet poster. I need to get more movie posters.
I appreciate it.
I'm lacking in that department.
Oh, I got a couple more. Maybe I can do one of these little numbers. I know I'm breaking the thing, but I got these. You guys see that, or is it too blurry?
Okay. No, I can see it. Spider-Man, I got you. I see you. What's is there like a wand underneath? What's?
Yeah. Me and my roommates took a trip to Disney. I talked about this a couple episodes ago. Shout out to that. But I got this elm wand. There we go.
Okay, I see you.
Shout out Hogwarts Legacy. Pretty good game so far. Not too far into it.
Nice.
Having a good time.
Nice. Yeah,
why do you like Pulp Fiction so much?
Just like it's a movie that I grew up watching. Okay. Technically, like I was supposed to be like the age appropriate, right? But my dad and I, we watched like a lot of old movies together. So not only is it like a movie that I watched long ago, it's also a special place in my heart too, because I grew up watching it with my parents. Mm-hmm. It's not the most kid-friendly film, but like it's still like a great movie to watch. So yeah.
I think if I'm gonna raise my kids the same way my parents raised me, it's like movies or it's whatever. They can watch whatever they want to watch. I was watching John Wick-esque movies when I was like, 8 years old. So, nothing
Hey,
doesn't
look how he turned out. Look at this.
I say it doesn't affect me.
Oh, look at that. Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
speak for everybody,
Uniforms
but
all behind you. Great, great
ugh,
vibe. Yeah,
yeah,
turned
I need
out
to do
great,
something.
man. You
I need to
did.
do something about that. That's a problem.
What you
It's
talking
just not
about? No, it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Deacon doesn't
course.
like coming to the studio anymore.
This
No, I'm
Bro,
just
this
kidding.
is a
I'm
Deacon,
just
how
false
kidding.
could you, man?
accusation, guys. Because behind the scenes, this is my art dynamic. This is actually why I haven't seen the show. If you didn't know that, I'm ousting him.
You're
Really?
what?
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
ousting you, man. See ya.
Yo, I didn't know this. It's
I let Deacon take control,
awkward
and
stuff right here.
he's actually firing me. So,
Unfortunately, we're recording this right now, but this is a bad dispute, and that was supposed to be silenced, but that was done.
anyways,
Totally. Don't worry.
Moving on back to the photography thing. You said you grew up kind of
For sure.
behind the lens. Like how much did your father influence your, want to go and actually start pursuing photography? Was there a point where when you were younger, it just clicked and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do? Or was it something that kind of gradually happened? Say there was a moment where you remembered exactly what it was and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Or it kind of just started happening. And then you were like, oh, I guess I'm kind of doing photography already. So I'm just going to pursue it. Was it like that?
Yeah, so basically growing up, I was told by my father that, I had very good visual, like I can be very visual, if you will. And then growing up behind the lens, what I mean by that is if you look at my website that I sent before this recording started, I actually lived overseas before coming here to America. I only got to America 3 years ago. I was
Oh, wow.
born and raised outside of America in Indonesia, where I went to international school. And I also was fortunate enough to travel a lot around the world. So growing up, my father would often take photos of like the environment or where we traveled, for example. And I would just ask, and he would give me his camera, and I would, want to take photos, and he would teach me. And just over time, growing up in a way, I was able to, you know, take that kind of take that helm, if you will, and start taking photos of my own. And here we are. The rest is history, if you will. So I just really love doing it, and I love taking photos, and I love capturing people in a way because they're memories that will last
Right.
forever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I love doing that. Yeah.
Great transition about the website. Let's show that now.
Boom.
Johannes sent me the link to his personal website, which is amazing because, if people take the time to go and make their own website, that's how I know they're serious about this stuff.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like you've got services, sports, so you've got sports, couple shoots, events. If you had to pick, what is your favorite kind of photography? Because I know sports photography is way different than like landscape photography or sorry, not landscape photography, but I'm drawing
How
a blank
dare
on the word.
you? How
I'm
dare you,
drawing a
man?
blank on the word.
Bro, I'm out here, dude.
Well, this is why you're here, yo. This is why you're here for us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think honestly, sports for now, because I'm in college right now and just capturing people throughout the sports season has been great so far, and I met really a lot of cool people on the pitch or on the field. You know what I mean? So just overall a great time. So far, sports. I like portrait photography a lot, and also I
That's a
like
good picture right
environmental
there.
photography. You know what I mean? Yeah, but a lot of the
Right.
time it's sports right now because I think a lot of time people like watching or like seeing photos of other people, if you will, right? So I think it's more interesting that way. So just seeing football photos, for example, right here, I can see really
Oh,
interesting to watch too.
and
So,
people like seeing photos of themselves. So that's like,
oh
one of the
yeah,
big things too.
yeah,
I got a
definitely.
question about this because this is on your own page. Do you get access to go because you're on the sideline unless you're using like a 30-foot lens and you're, in the bleachers getting this close, but
No,
it's
I'm not Jacob Thompson. So
so
yeah,
you get access to get on the field and stuff like that, and you're taking these pictures. Are these for student media outlets, or are these pictures, or is the access you are getting for stuff like putting this on your website and stuff like that?
it's actually for the observer's sake,
Okay.
just because we need event coverage. But I low-key tell kind of a white lie, if you will, because like I say, it's for the observer, but
Yep.
it's for my own personal sake too. My portfolio. This is my portfolio, basically. My website is my work. Um, So it's basically a bit of both, if you will. I go on the pitch, I go on the field to take photos, right? Because I have the press pass from the Observer. So I do that. I do that event coverage. If you want to publish something online, like how many games Central won or something like that, or like what was the game score of like the baseball or softball, for example, I do that for the online for the Observer. But this is only for like my personal photos, if you will.
That was the answer I was looking for. That was the answer I was looking for.
Appreciate it.
I knew it. I could tell.
Cool.
But shout out
Yeah,
Trey right
there you
here.
go.
Oh no, that's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah, I know. It's a great photo. Yeah. Yeah.
Deacon, you were gonna say something? I saw you. You were chirping up for a second.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. Well, it was pretty basic, but it was like, I don't know, short sentences always leave a big impact. So it said point, compose, and shoot. Was there anything that specifically made you think about that that phrasing there? Anything that people that aren't as attuned to photography might inquire about?
Yeah, honestly, at the end of the day, my photos are only good because of the equipment I used, right? And that's true for any photographer. The better the camera, the more expensive lens you got, the better the photo, right? Honestly. But honestly, it also that has to not only do with the better lens and better image quality, also do with what kind of photo you're taking, right? So when I talk about point, compose, shoot, regardless if you have a big Sony camera, like I do, or like a camera like Jacob does, or even like a tiny iPhone that people have, honestly, in general, right? What matters is how you compose a shot, how you kind of frame it, if you will. So for example, this photo of Trey right here that you see, it was a beautiful photo because not only was it candid, like I didn't plan this at all. He just pointed to me and I took the photo, right? But also because just everything in that frame, if you will, is perfectly kind of structured, is perfectly framed, perfectly structured, right? Everyone's heads are included, right? Not only do you have Trey in the foreground, but in the background, you have another player who's smiling at his teammate after like a nice game or hard game. So in general, just make sure you point, and when you compose, make sure you frame your subject clearly, and you just shoot the damn thing. Honestly, like take a photo. Sorry, not like you know how we shoot, right? Like photography shoot. Like yeah.
You bring up a really interesting point. Like how much does equipment actually play into it? Because in any profession, people will say if you're really good at something, you don't need the best equipment. You work with what you've got. Whether it's a sport or like I said, any profession, people will say like, oh yeah, I could do that with the cheapest available option and do it better than you. How much does equipment actually play into it?
Yeah, so I'll give you what I know. My Sony camera, the base camera without the lens attached to it, is around, I would say, $1,200. And then the lens I have, the lens I have two lenses. One's about like $500, $600, and the other one's like $800. So in total, I'm carrying around gear that's around like more than $2,000, right?
There we go. Just like a little
I'm hoping to get more lens. Yeah, there you go. A little tuition down the drain. You know what I'm saying?
Tax
But yeah,
write-off.
I mean, it is. Yeah, there you go. Right? It's inexpensive. I think for me, I'm trying to make this kind of like a full-time kind of thing if possible, or just right now it's a side gig, right? I'm hoping to get paid for this moving forward in the future. But honestly, at the end of the day, my father told me like it doesn't matter how expensive the lens is. What matters is the person behind the lens, or person behind the camera, right?
Right.
So if you take good quality photos and you have a good idea of how to frame your subjects, right? And you also have good, lenses, right? At the end of the day, you're perfect. You're good. And yeah, these photos were just of like my best friend, who's getting married. Congratulations! Shout out to Marcos and Hope. Best of luck to you both. Yep. Getting married this summer, so hopefully I'll check them out. They'll be down in Yakima. So yeah.
So probably gonna see more photos of that on here then, right?
Yeah. Hopefully this summer. Yeah.
That's cool. So what would you recommend to those who, maybe aren't well versed in photography and are looking to get into it? Are there some more entry level ways to get into that? Like would you even just recommend people starting with their iPhone or Android, whatever they have, and then graduating from there?
Right. I think honestly, first off, sorry. Start off by using your phone camera. Start off by taking photos of yourself. Take really deep, interesting shots if possible. And then if you like it enough, or your friends like it enough, for example, then invest in like to a base camera. I recommend maybe, I don't know, like a Canon or even a Nikon.
Okay.
Those are a little cheaper depending on what kind of camera you get. Sony and even the more expensive Canons are more luxurious camera brands or the camera quality taking like devices, if you will. But if you want to really invest and really want to pursue this kind of career, and then you gotta invest in like really expensive, high quality stuff or like mid-range stuff, if you will. But start off by taking photos with your phone. Start off that way. And if friends like it, if people like it online, continue that if you want to, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's sweet. Like, yeah, that's cool. So like, how would you describe like your impact so far into student media? You know, you're just getting started. It seems like you have lots of plans for the future. Like, what's something you're really proud of so far, and then things you want to accomplish down the road?
I think what I'm really proud of so far is just being a part of an amazing team at the Observer, you know, honestly, and working a little bit with Pulse too has really been a fantastic kind of thing as well. And I think, you know, some of my best work has been with the Observer so far, just in terms of like taking photos for them at school events or whether it's on campus or off campus, right? And I think in general, moving forward, what I love to do, Deacon and holy crap, what's your name? Evan. I knew that. Deacon and Evan. For my bad, my bad.
No worries.
You know, enigmatic electric Evan.
Honestly, is I would love to do projects that are focusing more on the community of Ellensburg and the surrounding Kittitas County, if you will. Like I met many amazing people so far, whether that's an artist who does work at Gallery One or, you know, a taco truck, you know, employed by Latinx or individuals who are just coming here to the United States or living here in general, you know, who want to work hard and spread love and positivity. That I want to showcase. The people who don't get enough time in the spotlight. That's what I want to do moving forward with that, honestly.
That sounds great. You're a very personable and energetic person. Like every time you come into Observer, everyone's like, "Oh, Yo's here," you know, like, and especially when you're giving your presentation about photography basics and stuff, like I can see that you're somebody that's gonna get a lot of interesting stories out of people and shine a light on other people that maybe don't get the time of day sometimes, you know.
Thank you, Deacon. I really appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Of course.
Reverting back to what you said earlier about, you know, getting the right equipment and stuff like that and how important that is for photography. When it comes to photography for a news outlet such as the Observer, do you feel like that the higher quality equipment is not as important? Does the print of the photo actually kind of affect the outcome of how you're shooting it and whatnot? Because, you know, if you have a $4,000 camera and a, you know, $1,000 lens on that thing and you shoot a photo compared to a photo shot on the iPhone, and that cover that photo makes the front cover, does it actually change a whole lot, or is it kind of just, is it like a personal thing? Do you think other people notice, or is it just, yeah, I don't really know how to frame that question exactly how I want to, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah, I got you, man. I got you. I think personally, I think it does make a difference, but not too much since it's in print. For example, I think when you think in terms of like image quality, like if I'm zooming in on the subject far away, for example, there are like some events that I go like where people are performing or they're singing, right?
Yeah.
And if I zoom in, the quality is way better as opposed to like if I use the iPhone camera, right? And a lot of the time, my photos are done in post, right? So they're edited a lot of the time. So for example, after I do a photo shoot, I might spend like an hour or two editing all these photos I took. So honestly, I think it does make a difference, right? But a $4,000 camera compared to like an iPhone camera, in terms of like if you're just like not zooming in and just staying like still like a portrait, right? It won't make that big of a difference, you know. But it still goes. I think what matters most is the talent and the photographer, right? For me, I edit my photos using Lightroom. I think that's a difference. It sets me apart compared to other people who would just use an iPhone camera, if you will. So yeah.
How much relies on the editing, you know, because it's like, I think the editing is obviously equally important, but it's the photo itself is the foundation. So you have to have the good photo as the starting point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the execution really has to do with how you take the photo, right? And how you compose the shot, right? The editing is more like the cherry on top, if you will, right? I only do that to ensure that it makes it a little more appealing, right? To viewers, right? Because a lot of the time, I think us viewers are attracted to colors, right? If you will. So for example, in post, not only do I make it a little more clear, like how do you say, like I up the exposure a little bit or bring down the contrast, right? The most important thing is adding a little bit of that saturation to make it a little more colorful, a little more vibrant, if you will. So yeah.
Here's a question for you. There, newspaper photography has been the same essentially for the last like 30-ish years, probably 30 to 40 years. Aside from the equipment itself changing and developing over time, we've seen it kind of the same. It's point shoot. You go through the photos, you edit the photos, you upload them to the website, and then you upload them, and then they get printed in the paper, right? How do you think the industry could actually further and develop a new method of doing this that would make it better? Because it's been the same. I don't like, how do you change it? How do you make it better?
Mhm. I think a lot of the time, especially in terms of news, right, and newspapers and too as well, print too. There has often been a stigma more recently. I feel like where it's a lot like text heavy, if you will. And while it's great to be informative, it's also great to kind of include more visuals. And personally, guys, that's really biased coming from a photographer, right? Having more visuals, right? But also moving forward, I think not only like printing out your photos or sending photos online, you know what I mean, to be a part of the story, but I think also including more visuals, if you will. For example, what I like to do is that when I come to a photo shoot, I don't just take 1 to 5 photos, for example. I don't just show up there and take one photo. I take like 10, 20, even 30 photos sometimes. I took 50 photos one time at a photo shoot, right? And out of the 50, I picked my best 30, for example, right? Moving forward, I think what news outlets should do is I think should include more photos or even more videos, if you will, or even more graphics. In general, include more visuals, because when you look at how much society has come, how much we evolved, right? Look, for example, at TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, right? Those videos are very short and they're very concise. And there's the
Mhm.
reason why they're so popular nowadays is that people don't have the time to read like a 1 to 2 page long article, right? They want something quick, easy, and fast, right? And if it can be summed up either in a YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or TikTok, that would be great. In terms of photos, even better. Like if you have photos with like cut lines, right, that will get your story across that way too. So moving forward, including more visuals in general, I think is what I would say, or graphics or anything interactive online for people. So
Even in print to include more graphics and visuals, because I agree. I think print nowadays should go to more visuals and then honestly have the stories tie into what the visual is. Because it's like
definitely,
it in broadcast journalism, they teach you to write to the video. And I know that and if a news outlet is good enough, the photo will portray the story as best as possible. So it's almost like you could write to the photo, right? I
right,
think
right.
that's how I feel like I would see it.
Right, right. And also just want to add too, like just like you, Evan, and you, Deacon, have this perfect synergy of you two broskies, you're not doing this podcast, right? There has to be a perfect synergy between the photographer and the writer of that story,
Mm.
right? The writer shouldn't write that long text, and I shouldn't like take that many photos. It should be like a perfect synergy between the two, if you will, moving forward. And that's what creates a really good team, honestly. For example, I'll give you one example. Like this past week, there was an article that was written about African Night. Beautiful story, talking about celebration of African culture and African people dancing, stuff like that. Very beautiful. But in the story, there was a lot of talk about where people were from originally, like where in Africa they were from, right? And instead of writing all that text maybe and having that interview, what if moving forward the designers could work with the writer in creating a very interesting graphic of like maybe we take like the continent of Africa and we pinpoint, like people, oh, you're from Zambia, you're from South Africa, you're from this part of Africa, you know what I mean? And we include their names, maybe like a small little photo of them on like a graphic. We print
Mhm.
that, and that could be really interesting, just compared to having long text interviews, right?
Yeah.
Question answer, right? We had that instead. So yeah,
I love that idea. I think that's great. I think something we talk about a lot on the show are the differences between the different media outlets that we have. So Observer, we want the quick news. We want to be inundated with what's going on in campus, while Pulse is focusing on timeless stories, right? So that seems like an
right,
approach of how do we mix both worlds and make it so that you're still getting the information as quickly as we need it, but then getting more compelling visuals, which is something that Pulse prides itself on as well. And like we obviously
right.
we've always had really great photographers such as yourself and people in the past, like Brevin. Shout out to one of our
Yep,
previous
yep.
guests. And our designers like Brandon and Glacy do an amazing job. So like I think it's just really cool. Like how do we get even more collaboration involved in that? That seems like a good path moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think that's not spoken on enough is the fact that the photographers and the writer should really work together, because the writer has all the details of the story and they know what the story really is, and the photographer kind of captured the essence of the story with the imagery. And I feel like sometimes it's like it gets a little lost in translation. Someone will just kind of pick a photo and then they'll throw it out there. And at Pulse, it's like that's something that they do really, really well. And I'm not saying Observer doesn't do it well. I'm just saying from what I have observed with Pulse over the last 3 quarters that I've been in the classroom is that they do a great job at writer, designer, photographer all working together and coming together on their stories to find the perfect picture, the perfect design that fits the writer's description of the story or the story itself.
Right.
And I think photography and news is like it's got to be the same amount of effort, right?
Right, definitely. I think to just add to that as well, thank you for that really insightful kind of thing you just said there. With Pulse, I love my coworkers at Pulse, but also it's also a quarterly issue, right? So they have that whole time period. With the Observer, we're
Right.
weekly issue, right? So the window is very small to get things out the door, get things going. So hopefully moving forward, we can try to implement more designs and visuals, right? But that would require a little more extra work from the team, which I'm not sure, if we're willing to do. I'm very happy to do it. I'm open to anyone else helping me out, But moving forward, I would love to implement more if we can, have a bigger outreach, if you will. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that's definitely one of the most highlighted things from this. Let me know if you agree, like about when we do reviews, everyone is just talking about how amazing this the newspaper has like grown visually, like as a whole too, like even down to like small little things like changing the O in the Observer to the Earth, like when it was Earth Day and stuff like that, and just like small details, like very just singularly attached to that issue, like whether it's issue 4, and then it's just small details like that go a long way.
Right, definitely. Shout out to my designers, Lacey and Brandon, who've been great coworkers so far, and looking forward to working with them more in the future. So really, really happy about that. So yeah.
Well, yo, we can't thank you enough for your time. Oh, sorry, Deacon, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, do we want to tease something we got cooking up here?
I was actually gonna get into that.
Look at this. We got the synergy. We got it.
I'm missing out here.
I'm assuming you're talking about the awesome little tidbit graphic type thing that Yo sent us. I don't want to show it here because I want it to be almost, you'll see it. It'll be there. But Yo was kind enough to send us a little animation introduction, if you will. And I think it's going to fit perfectly with what we have here. Problem is you're going to have to change one of the names on there soon because it's going to be Deacon and whoever else. But I'm more than happy to use it, and I can't wait to use it. So when you guys click on this podcast and you watch it on the YouTube or on the Pulse website, there's going to be a little something extra in there from Yo. And I just wanted to say a big thank you because that was awesome. I love getting surprises like that, especially when it comes to this, because I love getting stuff to use that I can add to the edits and stuff like that. So that's awesome. Honestly, that could even be like an Instagram thing that I'm probably going to put on there. So yeah, thank you very much. And we cannot thank you enough for your time. This super interesting story. I love all the work that you do. The website's awesome. And I will honestly keep clicking on it. If you're updating more photos, I would like to see what else you're doing on there. So I'll be sure to be checking in on that.
For sure. Can I add one more thing before we kind of like end this kind of meeting in a way?
Of course.
I think one thing I want everyone to take away with if they watch this whole thing, right, is don't work for me, work with me, right? I think a lot of time, while a lot of people are in their own kind of individual respective fields, right, if you will, moving forward, I think it's very important as a team, whether you're a news organization or whether you're a film crew or whether you're any kind of environment where you're working with someone else, right? Swallow your pride and please work respectively, because at the end of the day, you're not working for someone, you're working with someone. So that's my main takeaway in general. Yeah,
team effort.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
team effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks, Joe, for coming on. We appreciate your time, and we're gonna be working with you a lot in the future. And Evan's got a couple more weeks left, so maybe we can get some more collaboration stuff moving forward. Social media, you've been very eager and creative with all the opportunities you've been pushing forward. So looking forward to capitalizing on that with you.
Might have to do
For sure. Can't wait, man.
might have to do like a Pulse photo shoot or a geez Louise student media podcast photo shoot before it's all said and done with Deacon and I.
That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I
Dude.
would love to do like a shot like that. Oh yeah, for sure. Just like send me an email, like call me up,
Dude,
hit
that'd
me
be
up.
fun. Do that.
For
All
sure. I'd
right.
be happy to do it, man. Yeah.
Yo, thank you very much, Deacon, as always. Thank you, dude. The Student Media Podcast signing off.